Good morning. Today in the 10th class, we have to study respiration. Respiration is a biochemical process in which glucose molecule is broken through the different ways and carbon dioxide and water is released and energy is also released. This is a slow combustion process in which the oxygen combines with the glucose and break them into the simple forms. We know that respiration takes place through two different ways. One, which is taking place in the presence of oxygen, and one, which is taking place in the absence of oxygen. Such type of respiration, which takes place in the presence of oxygen, is called aerobic respiration, and such type of respiratory pathways, which takes place in the absence of oxygen, is called anaerobic respiration. This respiration, in which the glucose is broken into cytoplasm, into pyruvic acid, and less amount of energy is emitted, that is called glycolysis. A 6 carbon compound is broken into 3 carbon compound, and less amount of energy is emitted through the 10 different biochemical reactions, and this process takes place in cytoplasm in the absence of oxygen. And this is a enzyme controlled reaction. You know that. This is glucose, and this glucose, which is a 6 carbon compound, is broken in the cytoplasm into 3 carbon compound pyruvic acid. Now this pyruvic acid is broken in different organisms, in different organelles, in the presence or absence of oxygen, in different pathways. In this way, the first pathway of the respiration which was taking place in the yeast, in which pyruvic acid is broken in the absence of oxygen, and ethanol is formed, and carbon dioxide is formed, and a small amount of energy is emitted. This process is also known as fermentation. You have to know that such type of respiration in which pyruvic acid or glucose is broken finally into ethanol, carbon dioxide, and a small amount of energy is emitted is known as anaerobic respiration, and respiration is known as fermentation. You have to know that in the morning when we start vigorous exercise, as we know that throughout the night, when the sunlight is absent, when the photosynthetic process had not run, plant has not photosynthesized, oxygen has not been emitted into the atmosphere. In that way, in the morning when we start exercise, we know that oxygen is present in our atmosphere in very less amount. So there is lack of oxygen. But the continuous contraction of the muscle cells requires huge amount of energy, and to produce huge amount of energy, oxygen is needed so that respiratory process can be performed and energy can be emitted. But in atmosphere, oxygen is very less. In that condition, the pyruvic acid is broken into lactic acid, and a small amount of energy is emitted. You have to know that this lactic acid, as this exercise is continuously going for many days, this lactic acid is deposited in our muscle cells and cause muscle cramp. Muscle cramp is the sudden involuntary contraction of one or different muscles of the body. This is taking place in the lack of oxygen, so we can say this is a type of anaerobic respiration. The third one, which is taking place in the total presence of oxygen and which is taking place in mitochondria. You have to know that the type of respiration which is taking place in mitochondria in the presence of oxygen is known as aerobic respiration, in which the pyruvic acid is broken into carbon dioxide, water, and a lot of energy is emitted. 3 molecules of carbon dioxide is emitted after the complete breakdown of pyruvic acid. You have to know that one activity which you have to study, the activity 6.6, in which an evaluation you have to done why operculum of the feces moves fastly. You know that you have seen or observed in the aquarium, as there is not circulation of oxygen directly by the aquatic plants, by the atmospheric contact. So we have to know that Through the aerator, we supply the oxygen, we supply the air inside the water. But in less amount of water, less amount of oxygen is mixed or dissolved. And these species will have to move their operculum fastly so that the large amount of oxygen can be exchanged and respiratory fulfillment can be done. So that's all today's. Tomorrow we will study about the human respiratory system and the structure. Thank you.